This is the Healthy Business Podcast, the show for ambitious business owners who want to grow and scale in a healthy way. I'm Sarah Cook, and I'll be sharing with you tips, inspiration, and proven methods from leading business experts, entrepreneurs, and health and wellness professionals to help you grow your business with more income and having more impact, but in a way that works for you. Because when you have clarity and strategy, you can achieve the results you want. Hello and welcome to the Healthy Business Podcast. I am super excited because I have a brilliant guest for you today. I'm joined by the wonderful Sophia Le Page, and we're going to be talking about cyclical feminine business. Now, I'm going to let her explain a little bit of what that is and how that brings us women, us feminine energy into, I suppose, the success of running our business and doing that in an aligned way. So, Sophia, welcome. I'm super excited to have a chat with you today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Sarah. I feel like we're going to have such a great conversation today.
Oh, I think so. And you are over in Bali at the moment. So I was in the UK, and we were talking before we came live about you being in Bali and me really missing that part of the world from living out in Singapore for 7 years. So thank you for joining me with the time difference as well.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so one question that I always start with my wonderful guests is, what does a healthy business mean to you?
For me, a healthy business means a business that's sustainable. So I think a lot of times in business, we can think about wanting success, but we don't, and we kind of sacrifice everything to get there. And so maybe we don't think about how we're going to sustain that. So for me, it's about creating something that's sustainable. And for me, what that means is, as a woman, bringing and weaving in our feminine energy and our feminine cycle. So working in harmony with our natural feminine gifts and our natural feminine energy, and letting that inform how we run our business. So we're not putting on a mask when we go to business. We're able to bring all of ourselves into our business. And therefore, we're able to bring all of our energy, all of our gifts, all of our sort of uniqueness and magic as a woman into that space.
Oh, amazing. It's so important, isn't it? And, one of the things I talk about is being your true, authentic self. And it can feel really exhausting if you're not, but also you want to attract the right people to you. So it makes sense for you to bring your whole you to your business and run it in a way that feels really amazing. And you've been on a bit of a journey, haven't you? So you kind of weren't in this space, and reading, kind of doing some research around you beforehand of how, your journey and your life was very different to where you are now, and how you almost felt contained. And this has now kind of exploded into really living your true life, which is so exciting. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I live in Bali now, and I'm married. I'm married to my second husband. And today I'm a feminine embodiment and leadership coach. So I help women kind of like release the hustle and recover from burnout and reclaim pleasure in their businesses and their bodies. So that's what I do now. But yeah, it's totally different to where I was in my late 20s. So in my late 20s, I was married to my first husband, and I had been hustling my whole life. I say I came out of the womb hustling. Like, I was always that person that was wherever the bar was set, I was trying to go above it. Classic overachiever, high anxiety, perfectionist, really seeking identity and validation in everyone else's idea of who I should be. And so in my late 20s, I was married, I was burnt out, I was disconnected from my pleasure, disconnected from my feminine, disconnected from my body, disconnected from myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what my purpose was. And I only knew that I was stuck and that I didn't want to be living the life that I was living. And at that point in time, I really didn't have the tools that I have now. I didn't have the awareness that I have now. And so my way out at that time was to have an affair and implode my marriage. And that's what I did. So I imploded my marriage. I imploded this good girl image that I had, imploded my friendships, kind of like just took a match and lit up my whole life.
Yeah.
And and on the other side of that was when I really had to question, like, who am I? How did I get here? How did I do this? How did I become this person? How do I forgive myself? How do I stop judging other people? How do I learn to express what I truly want so it doesn't have to come in this way? And that was what started my journey of discovery that eventually led me all over the world and eventually led me to sacred sexuality, feminine embodiment, to pleasure, sensuality, and to that reclaiming of those parts of myself that I had not been aware of or had lost throughout my life, and brought me, once I embodied it myself, I was like, other women need to know about this. And that's how I started this work. So it was never my intention. It just happened.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think a lot of where we end up, or the path that we're all following, the journeys that we're all on, isn't necessarily what we originally thought we were going to do when we were, young children. When you were asked what you want to be when you grow up, it probably is something totally different to what you're actually doing now, and may well evolve into something else as we carry on that journey of life. I think what's really interesting from kind of hearing your story is this feeling of being disconnected, but also feeling like we need to follow this path of what we should be doing. And I know from certain parts of my journey of kind of, doing the right thing or doing what other people felt was the right thing, and how actually it is crafting your own path and really focusing within you, what lights you up, what gets you excited, what makes you tick. That's the exciting bit, especially when you're running your own business, is that you get to choose all of those things and you get to pull all of those bits and pieces out. And, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh, something's not quite right, I'm feeling a bit disconnected, I don't quite know what it is, take that time. And maybe I'll get your advice on this as well if people are listening to this, of, what would you sort of get people to do if they're feeling these little niggles of something's not quite right, but I don't know what it is. I'm feeling disconnected. It doesn't necessarily have to be marriage or relationships. It could be something within your business. But you don't have to stay stuck in there. You absolutely don't need to stay stuck in there. What would you recommend? What would you suggest for people to explore?
Yeah, so I feel that the disconnection, the feeling of the stickiness or the stuckness is that is the first sort of indication that things aren't going the way they really have the possibility to go. And then underneath that is a yearning. So the yearning is the desire, is the deep soul desire for something. And so when we start getting disconnected and stuck, it's because we have a belief that whatever that desire is, it's not possible for us to have it. And this is something that women, I grew up with this. Many women, I feel like just women as a collective, have been taught what you want doesn't matter. Your role is to please everybody else, whether it's in partnership or in your business with your clients or with your children or however it is. Your value is what you're giving to others. You don't get to have. You can only be giving. And that means you're a good person. You're a good woman. You're a good girl. So when there is that disconnection, my invitation is to look at what's beneath that, to what is the thing that brings like a tear to your eye, right? The thing that you know but are too afraid to look at, or the thing that you dismiss as, oh, well, that's not possible. Because if you have a desire, this is something that your soul, you don't get given these desires not to ever have them. Like that would just be cruel, Don't you think?
So true. It's so true.
So it's about, like recognizing that desire is because it's something that you have the possibility to experience, achieve, create in your life. And I feel that women who tend to be these sort of high achievers, like I've been, and I feel like you are too, and have been. It's like, because we have this, at the bottom of that is a deep soul longing to be our best selves. And I'm sure anyone who's listening to this, right, is listening because they want to be their best selves. You want to achieve your potential in life. But we get told, this is how you do it. You have to follow this, and you have to follow this, and this rule, and this rule. But what the pathway to that is the desire. So first of all, it's to recognize that what you are desiring is what you can have.
Amazing. And you're right. It's so true. I think that initial awareness means that you can then start building those pathways, making those tweaks, making those changes to move closer towards that. It doesn't necessarily mean, wiping the slate clean and, doing something totally different, but that recognition, allowing yourself to be aware of it, allowing yourself to explore that thing that's beneath everything, that sort of soul. It's that soul connection, isn't it? Of really understanding what that looks like. Oh, I love it. It really speaks to me of kind of, from my experience of sort of being in that corporate space, being a high achiever, doing lots of things, getting burnt out, having that anxiety and not feeling fulfilled. And it wasn't because I wasn't successful in my job or, earning, a brilliant salary, but those were all things that I felt that I should be doing. And there was just something missing. And I think it's, that's okay. It doesn't matter what it is, or, we're all individual. But I think it's going deeper than that, isn't it? It's really understanding what's pulling you. It's that pull, I think, isn't it? Knowing that sort of inner desire of knowing that you can make some changes, but you have to have the awareness and recognize that and allow yourself to recognize that first.
Yeah.
With, I suppose, as part of that is tuning into our kind of our energy, our femininity, of really kind of drawing into that. And I know that's something that you kind of work with, of kind of how we actually thrive when we're exploring these things as well. As well as our, menstrual cycles and everything else that happens to us women. Tell me a little bit about that, because that sort of leads into it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So working with our menstrual cycle is one of the ways that we can start to get more tuned in to our body and therefore to our desires. So the one of the biggest pieces for women around feeling disconnected from their femininity, from their feminine essence and energy and power, is this disconnection from the menstrual cycle, calling it a period, thinking of it as like, because period is like a period of insanity. Like it's like looked as this thing that's a pain that we want to get rid of, that we want to take a pill so that we don't have to worry about that. And we should, if you're getting PMS, then you're just crazy and just keep going. But actually, when we start to really tune in, there's so much information inside of each one of those stages. And so, for instance, when you are in your bleed, when you're menstruating, this is when your energy field is the most open. So it's like you're the most sensitive at that point. You're the most aware. You're the most, if we're going to get a little witchy, psychic at that point. Like the veil is so thin. And so if you allow yourself in your business and in your life to take a little bit of rest, even if it's a day, even if it's 2 days, even if it's sort of structuring things a little differently, so your partner takes care of a little bit more of the errands so that there's more time for you to rest. If you feel like you absolutely can't schedule the time off, I mean, I personally do, but if you can't, find ways to create a bit more space in your schedule so that you can rest. Because in that rest, this is like the death phase of the cycle. It's like where you get to shed everything that doesn't serve you. And that includes belief systems, that includes all the things from the month that you thought you should do, right? So it's like a time where you really get to reevaluate how you want to move forward, kind of take a break, take a pause, and move into the month in a different energy. It's also a great time for getting inspiration for new ways, new actions to take in your business, new ways to move forward. It's a great time for tuning into what are the deeper desires, right? Because the womb speaks to us. Our desires come from the womb. That's the seat, really, of our feminine intuition, is the womb. So then as we start to move through, then we move into the follicular phase. It's like the springtime, the rebirth, your energy is starting to rise, the hormones are getting more up leveled. This is a great time for planning, right? Like in the springtime, you plant seeds. So it's a great time for connecting into what are making some plans for what you might want to launch or create, or new things that you might want to do in your business that month. And then in ovulation, you're in the summertime. It's like the harvest. Your energy is the highest. You're the most magnetic. Opportunities are just coming like that. It's the time for sales. It's the time for outward. It's the time where you really get to reap the rewards of having taken that time in the winter, of having planted your seeds in the spring, and now you get the harvest. And then in the fall or the autumn, which is the luteal phase, that's where your energy is starting to come back down. So you're starting to reevaluate what happened in the month, make preparations for the winter time. So maybe start easing off on the schedule, giving yourself a little bit more rest time, really start to tune in more with your emotions. What are the things that feel like, oh, I just don't want to do this, like those things where you're like, the rest of the time I'm fine about this, but right now I am not fine. So tuning in with those things, because that's the indication of where you're allowing your boundaries to be crossed, where you're saying yes when you really want to be saying no, where you're sort of going outside of yourself and sort of giving yourself away for whatever reasons. So that's how we can work with our menstrual cycle. And a lot of times, women are very resistant to this at first, especially the part about slowing down in the menstrual time, because they're like, I have a lot to do.
Yeah. I hear this all the time. As business owners, we've got a lot to do, right? There's lots of hats to wear. There's lots of juggling to do. But I'm loving
Right.
this. This is so interesting.
Yeah, they're like, how am I supposed to take time off? I'm going to be overwhelmed. But when they do, what happens is that they have so much more energy as the month takes off. So when it comes to ovulation, they're on a fire. They're doing twice as much as they were doing before, because they've nourished themselves, because they have like allowed their energy allowed themselves to be in that cyclical nature of being a woman. So they actually end up with more energy and get more done. It's not steadily happening over the month. It's kind of like a little bit of not much happening, on both ends, and then this huge amount in the middle. But then overall, more has been done. It's higher quality. They feel so much better doing it. They're getting better results, and they're getting to rest. So that's how I feel like it all sort of ties in as well with creating a sustainable business, right? Rather than just a successful business.
It goes right back to what you were saying in the beginning. You're right, of just, creating this idea of a healthy business, having that sustainability. But it is about looking at you and you being able to perform at your best levels and recognizing your energy, recognizing, how women, we go through these phases. I love the sort of link to the seasons and nourishing yourselves at the right time, but also using that, your most creative time to be the most creative. I talk about this in kind of daytime, when you're planning and when you're working, of, knowing when your energy is its best throughout the day. But doing this from a seasonal perspective, we don't need to look at it from a calendar month. We're conditioned almost to look at things in a calendar month. But yeah, I love this idea of working to your individual energy in a way that actually is going to make your business more successful, more sustainable. But you're going to feel, I suppose, ease is the word that's coming to my mind, of just, you're going to feel in flow, pardon the pun, but you're going to feel kind of in that space that feels good for you. which is what it's all about when you're running your own business. We don't want to have the hustle of the everyday. We want to be able to do it, have that flexibility, that freedom that is one of the or two of the main reasons that most people do set up their own businesses. And I think if we can understand ourselves, understand how we can do that, that just totally makes sense. And is that something that you kind of actively work around as well when you're planning your, your business and your activities, that you will actively plan everything around it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have a coaching business. So when I'm launching or selling, I usually do that in my ovulation period. And then I don't see clients in my week when I'm menstruating. I have a client free week in that week. So all of my clients do 3 weeks on and 1 week off. I'm like, let's practice this. And I've never once had anyone say, well, what about why aren't we doing every single week? You know what I mean? They're always like, oh, wow, it's so nice to have a break. So I think a lot of the times as well, when we start really owning it for ourselves and doing it, we find that other people feel that permission. And I feel that as women, like, we have a responsibility to really start to take care of ourselves and to really start to honor and respect our energy, because if we don't, nobody else is going to. And how you take care of you and how you nourish yourself and how you honor yourself is how others learn to honor you. So you're not just doing it for you're doing it for all the women. And I think that it's really important. And I feel like if we want to, women are so powerful. We have so much to offer. Women are so magical, but we're not being utilized to our maximum right now, because when we're not really honoring how our energy works best. So there's so much more available on the other side of that. Like you said, the flow and the ease and the pleasure. Oh, it's so good. Join us.
Yeah, it's why I love running this podcast, because it opens me up to having amazing conversations with people that I may not have been able to previously, or kind of brought into my business in a different way. And I think these conversations are really important because, the majority of my listeners are women, and I think, we feel guilty. We feel like we need to apologize for wanting to do things with ease, or that we want to have it all. And that means different things for different people. But I think, this feeling of, or feelings of judgment and guilt, they come up, don't they? Because we feel like we need to be giving. And I think that's where it kind of keeps coming back to. I am a giver, I'm a recovering giver, and everything in between. I love to give, but you can't keep giving. And I think unless you're having that energy kind of pulled back again, of course we're not saying don't ever give again, because that's not what it's about. Most people are in business because they are givers, but you need to replenish that. You need to look after you in the best way possible. And I think, running your business, looking at how and where you get your energy from, that you've been talking about in our natural feminine cycles, recognizing when our energies are going to be highest, lowest, and in between, and really, launching at those times, creating in those times. It does make complete sense that we should be doing these things. So I love that, we're talking about, don't do what people think you should be doing, but actually I think it's these, as I said, these conversations just hopefully are more empowering, of kind of going, actually, I don't have to do things in the way that people tell me to do. There isn't a cookie cutter approach. It is about understanding me, having that awareness, and then building that business that aligns to all of those things. And for me, that's where the joy comes in. It's just exciting when you see other women living in that space of, seeing the success that they want to, and doing things in the ways that they want to, living in different countries in the world that they want to. It can come into all sorts of different things, can't it? I think it's fascinating. We've talked a little bit around kind of burnout and feeling tired and feeling stressed. And I can imagine kind of, people listening to this and thinking, okay, this sounds amazing. This is exactly what I'm trying to do, but I'm just so stuck in this cycle of giving and feeling burnt out, that how do I start making little changes? I'm aware of this. I'm aware of this inner desire. I know I want to make these changes, but I just feel too stressed to take time out because I'm so busy. How do you help your clients kind of navigate through that?
Yeah, I love this question. So the biggest issue with burnout and stress is that everything's happening in the mind. So you might have three things on your to-do list, but because you're stressed and burnt out, it feels like you have literally a million things, so it's like, it's that overwhelm. Even something small feels like so much. So how I work with clients with this is about descending the energy from the mind back into the body. So out of this kind of like past, future sort of tripping energy into like what's happening right now in the present. And what's happening right now in the present is not that bad. What creates the overwhelm is the projection of what we think is going to happen, what we think we're not going to be able to get done, what we think is going to take a long time, all these kinds of things. So this is why I love working with pleasure, because part of the problem with this overgiving is a difficulty in receiving. So we want to start to balance out that giving, receiving energy. And so working with pleasure, even just with breath or gentle touch on the body or dancing, this is how we start to retrain our body, retrain our nervous system, soothe the nervous system, release the emotional blockages that create the stagnation, that create the stress, that create the anxiety, and release the belief systems with them that are creating this kind of cycle of, I have to do this, the guilt, there's no way out for me, like all this kind of energy of like, I'm on the hamster wheel, I can't get off, like, I hate it, but I can't get off.
Yeah.
It's like, so this is how we start to unravel all of this conditioning, because that's all it is. It actually doesn't belong to you at all. It's not yours. It's never been yours. And you don't have to continue to carry it. So once women get into the body and they start to learn to circulate pleasure in the body, often through breath work, what starts to happen is your capacity to hold pleasure increases and your capacity to receive pleasure increases. And pleasure isn't just sexual pleasure. Pleasure can be more money, more aligned clients, more opportunities, a deeper friendships, a better connection with your partner, having, a more harmonious family life. Like all of these things are forms of pleasure, like true pleasure, not just like, superficial pleasure, right? And so the more that you work with this, the more that you are able to hold those good things and receive those good things. And then all those thoughts of like, oh my God, I don't have time, start to dissolve. So one little tool that I can offer to you, if you're listening and you're like, yep, I'm that woman that doesn't have 5 minutes,
Yeah.
is just take 5 minutes. 5 minutes isn't going to, if it doesn't work, it's only 5 minutes. It's not going to, in the grand scheme of the day, it's not going to change anything. But take 5 minutes, and you can, if you're brand new to this, just take some deep breaths. If you feel like, going a little more wild, put on a song and dance and just move your body for 5 minutes, get into your body, feel how your body wants to move. Try and sort of move a little bit, use some breath, get through some of the contraction out, make sound. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, tune in with yourself about, your to-do list. Does it really feel that bad anymore? Does it feel as overwhelming? What's the aligned action to take? And when I started doing this in my business, I started getting a lot more done a lot quicker, because the thing with that whole like overwhelm, burnout, guilt cycle is it takes so much energy, and it sort of puts you in this can put you in a freeze mode where you actually, you're not really doing any of it. Or that's what happened for me, right? It's either you go in hyperdrive, but then you're doing things possibly that you don't even need to be doing if you took that time to tune in. So yeah, that's my advice.
A great gift there, I think. Just, yeah, taking 5, we can all find 5 minutes. And I think probably everybody can relate to that moment where you sit down knowing you've got this big to-do list and you just freeze and you're like, I don't even know where to start. I have too much to do. I don't know where to start. That is the exact moment that you want to take 5. Or if you're feeling like you are on that hamster wheel and you're just in that hyperactive, okay, I'm just go, 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 go. I've just got to get this done. That again is that other moment to just take 5. And I think so many people have been there. I certainly have. That was my kind of massive trigger for when I hit burnout, when I was in the corporate workspace, of just realizing that I was just on constant overdrive. And it wasn't until I just needed to press pause, essentially, isn't it? Of just actually going, okay, let's just see what's going on here. Let's just shift that energy, shift that state. And then suddenly you become even more productive, which is exactly what you need to do to get through your to-do list. So it's not counterintuitive. It's totally the best thing to do for becoming more productive and having that energy, but reducing the feeling of overwhelm as well. Oh, great, really simple tip, I think.
Yeah. And the other thing as well about this is a lot of times when women get to that burnout stage, they think, oh, I just have to, give it all up, like maybe burn their business to the ground, right? Like I burnt my marriage to the ground. They burn their business to the ground. And that's such a shame, because usually if you start a business, it's because it's something you're passionate about. It's something that you're really good at. It's something that you really want to offer to the world. But if you get to the burnout, you will reach that point where you will no longer be able to do it. And so taking doing these little things, right, taking this 5 minutes can prevent you from having to get to that point where you sort of burn it all to the ground, and you can shift your business from being in that kind of like stressful hustle burnout-ish kind of heading that direction way into something that is what you intended it to be in the first place. So it's not like if you're in that space, you can't get it back. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
and I think it's so important for women to recognize that you don't want it. You build it for a reason. So, let it be sustainable.
Yeah, it does. It goes back to that sustainability thing, doesn't it? I think. And it's not all or nothing in the sense of you're working all the hours or you're not working any hours. It's finding that right balance. It's finding that sustainable balance that is good for you, good for your energy levels. And that doesn't even need to be the same each week, each day. That goes back to your sort of feminine cycles as well. You don't have to be pushing all the time. In fact, you're much better off if you're not pushing all the time. And I think just thinking around the days, the weeks where people are constantly saying, oh, I'm just so busy. I've got all these things to do. If I'm juggling a family, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Just bringing it back to you, bringing it back to your why. As you said, people set up a business because they have a passion about something. Then it's about, and I talk a lot about kind of passion, performance, profits, that your passion is exactly where you want to start, understanding that your purpose, you feeling aligned to it. Your performance, yes, it's your business performance, but actually it's you as well, understanding how you can perform at your best levels, because that's when you're going to get the results. And really understanding all of those different things creates that sustainability without the overwhelm, without the burnout, which is not where we want to go. You can have that sort of whatever all looks like for you, but it isn't necessarily at the expense of working all the hours. In fact, it really shouldn't be. Oh, I'm enjoying this chat so much. There's so many alignments from what we're kind of where we're coming from, but in a completely different way. And I know meditation is something that you kind of recommend doing and love doing. You've got a meditation that we're going to share the link with afterwards for anyone who wants to do this, the Rebel Queen meditation, to help you align and kind of bring things back, which I'm excited about. If people are wanting, or they are realizing that actually 5 minutes is definitely doable, but actually they probably need more than that. Where would you go with that next? So we've kind of got the awareness, we've got that sort of pause moment. meditation I know is something that kind of is good for you, but also from all sorts of things as well, and embodying all of that. How do people take it to the next stage?
Yeah, so I feel like it comes down to how you what works for you. So some people are people who can just sit and meditate for hours. I'm not one of those people. This is why I created guided meditations, because I like guided meditations, but I don't like just doing it myself. I also find massage to be super meditative, like, or singing or dancing. So I think it's to be aware of like what brings you pleasure, right? Like actual pleasure. What gets you into your body? So that could be going to the gym, that could be going for a walk, that could be going out in your garden and laying down on the grass and looking at the sky. You know, there's so many different ways, but just tuning in with what brings me pleasure, not what numbs me, right? Because a lot of time
Very different.
right, because we think of like, well, having a glass of wine brings me pleasure, and it does, and it is nice, but it's not, and it is pleasurable, right? But that's not like true embodied pleasure. So what brings you pleasure that's just you with you? And start exploring that, explore massaging your body, explore breath work, explore looking out at the sky. There's so many different things. I think it's really about sort of slowing down a little bit and bringing in some of that kind of like sacred self-care time, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, so good. And I totally resonate that from being a holistic therapist myself. It's one of the reasons that I trained in it when I left the corporate space, hit burnout, was that I found the benefit from it and I found it relaxing. And then being able to give that to other people, it's just amazing. And something that, is a mandatory on my to-do list is that self-care for me. I book in for those regular massages. I take the time every evening to kind of understand what's feeling tight in my body and try and release that. And I think that's so important. And again, you don't need to spend long doing this. This can be, spread through the day or taking a whole day. It's finding those moments, recognizing you, that awareness of you and what you need, that helps you avoid the burnout, that keeps you away from overwhelm, that keeps you in your energy. Oh, Sophia, I've loved this conversation. So many different things. I'm going to kind of wrap it up a little bit in the sense of, we've spoken about so many different things, but it kind of keeps coming back to this importance of tuning into our feminine energy to build the sustainable business without the overwhelm, without the burnout, and recognizing all the different things that we could do. Share with us your words of wisdom, some top tips that you would recommend. I know we've shared lots already, but it'd be great just to kind of summarize things that you would really focus on.
Okay, so my top tips are: 1, recognize that whatever it is that you deeply desire is possible for you. And 2, you get to have it. And 3, other people in your life want to know what you desire. And then start to develop some kind of embodiment practice so that you're getting out of the headiness of your mind, bringing your energy back into your body. Connect with your womb, connect with your menstrual cycle, and recognize that whatever is in harmony with your body and your energy, that brings you to a space of turn on, that makes you feel energized, that makes you feel radiant and vibrant, is going to be directly aligned with all your other goals. Because the journey of getting to success is just as important as the success, because there's always going to be another goal. There's always going to be something else. There's always going to be the next thing. And so how you're showing up for yourself on the journey, how you're enjoying every step of that journey, is how you're enjoying your life. So don't put it off until, your retirement to be able to feel connected to yourself, be able to feel pleasure. and aliveness. Let yourself have it now, and let yourself thrive and grow and blow everybody's minds with how much you do and how amazing you are in your life, and how much you get to enjoy the process of it.
Such an important learning and amazing words of wisdom, I think. Enjoy that journey. That's what it's so important, isn't it? There's reasons we've set up our own businesses. We want to enjoy that. We want to give things to people, but don't wait until that moment of, I'll do that when, or I'll see what happens if this happens. Like, there's always a reason not to do something, but we have to enjoy that journey. So, so important, and feels like a really great place to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed it. And I hope you listeners have got some amazing words of wisdom from this. But yeah, hopefully you found it empowering to tune into yourselves and really, really lean into that, I think, that feminine energy. Where can people find you if they are wanting to connect with you?
Yeah, so there's two places I love to send you listeners. One is to my Instagram at Sophia_Le_Page. So there, if you've listened to the episode, if there's something that some takeaway that you had, or something you want to share about what came up for you as you were listening, I'd love to hear from you. So you can send me a DM there. And then the other place to find me is on my website, sophialepage.com. So on there, I have all my links to my social media. I have the links to my self-study courses. I have links to how you can work with me in a one-to-one sense, and all the magic, everything's there. So yeah, these are the ways to find me. I'd love to connect with you. And Sarah, thank you so much for having me. I feel like this has been such a good conversation, so important. And I'm so honored to be here with you and get to have these beautiful conversations. It's so needed, I feel.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, absolutely. It's so needed. And I love running this episode and really chatting to you in more depth around it. And I think it's just so important. There's so needed for us to run business in a way that works for us, and really delving into that and having that awareness. So thank you again for joining me. I've loved it. If you are listening to this, please do send us a comment. Please do leave us a review. I'm always interested to hear what you think about each of these episodes. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one as much as I have with Sophia. And I will see you on the next episode. So thank you again, Sophia. Thank you, listeners, and I will see you soon. Thanks for listening to the Healthy Business Podcast. To get your free checklist with 1-minute hacks to accelerate your business and find out more about our community, head to my website, sarahcookmarketing.com/healthy business.